So our poet E.E Cummings, short for Edward Estlin Cummings, has a very unique style. His poetry is usually about love and nature. He's very different from other poets because he uses his words and stanzas to portray the object or symbol that he's talking about. If you look at this poem, it doesn't look quite right. But if you look closely, if you decipher the words, it shows a grasshopper hopping. This is an example of an imagist poem. E. Cummings also used different symbols, like parentheses, which gave the poem a whole new perspective, which Juan and Kristy will analyze one of his famous poems.
The poem Kristy and I analyzed is called I Carry Your Heart With Me, I Carry It In. What we concluded from the poem is that the lines in the parentheses are to express what he is really thinking in his mind. The lines outside the parentheses is him talking directly to his love. So for the first stanza, he is expressing, he wants the reader to catch his attention towards his dear, so we know she is always in his position or in his doings. Kind of like she's always in his thoughts, or everything he does is for her or thinking of her. Kind of like she is inspiring him in a way. The second stanza, he says that he doesn't need anything else but his love. His love cannot compare to the moon or to the sun. The last stanza, which is the third, it is basically saying that life is like a tree that grows upward and outward and has very complicated components like roots and buds. It grows so tall it seems to reach and even be a part of the sky. It cannot grasp it all, and even the mind, which is expert at hiding things from us, cannot hide it all. So he is comparing this tree to his love for his dear. His love for her is so much that many people cannot have the same love he has for her. And that is it.
Buffalo Bills by E.E Cummings. Buffalo Bill's defunct, who used to ride a water-smooth silver stallion and break 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pigeons just like that. Jesus, he was a handsome man. And what I want to know is, how do you like your blue-eyed boy, Mr. Death? First off, I think that E.E. Cummings wrote his poem in this style for two reasons. The first being that, in a certain way, the words can be visualized as being two separate pistols when the page is cut in half. The other reason is to force the reader to slow down while actually reading the poem, which would give the reader more time to analyze and visualize the actual poem. Another way that E.E. Cummings makes the reader slow down and think is by using the word defunct. The reader can think why he chose that word instead of using something simple like dead. Who used to ride a water-smooth silver stallion. I think the words are broken up like this so that the reader can picture Buffalo Bill actually riding a horse and think how he lived his everyday life. How do you like your blue-eyed boy, Mr. Death? This part is meant to belittle Buffalo Bill by saying that even though he was awesome in life, that does not matter now that he is dead, because in the eyes of Mr. Death, we are all equal. I think he says Mr. Death because he finds death as something powerful since it completely changes everyone's life. He also says Mr. because he respects death as someone that can control his life and the life of others.
Why Did You Go? By E.E Cummings. Why did you go, little forepaws? You forgot to shut your big eyes. Where did you go? Like little kittens are all the leaves which open in the rain. Like little kittens who are called spring. Is what we stroke, maybe asleep? Do you know? Or maybe did something go away ever so quietly when we weren't looking? So in our analysis of this poem, the first stanza, I'll reread it, and then I'll give you the definition of what we believe it represents. And I'll be doing this for every stanza. So I'll now reread the first stanza. Why did you go, little forepaws? You forgot to shut your big eyes. Now, what we believe the first stanza represents is it's probably saying that an animal just died and has impacted the person very heavily. And now I'll go over the second stanza. Where did you go? Like little kittens are all the leaves which open in the rain. This stanza is symbolizing the deceased kittens with leaves on a tree by how the kittens are the leaves falling off trees representing death. And now the third stanza. Little kittens who are called spring. Is what we stroke maybe asleep? Now what we feel like this represents is probably the stanza is possibly trying to mention new life with spring, and the kittens may just be asleep. And now go with the fourth stanza. Do you know, or maybe did, something go away ever so quietly when we weren't looking? And the stanza is saying how the kitten died. It's asking if the kitten died peacefully or some sort of infection that wasn't treated. So E.E Cummings overall mentions a couple metaphors. His writings are known for the unusual punctuations and use of lowercase letterings and his great imagination to come up with his poems.